I guess I should pay attention to when that happens. Okay. Oh, here's one of the people. So I just got a text from my friend who wants to join, and she's in a different time zone. So she wrote, "Oh shit, I missed it." And I'm like, "No, it's just happening." So let me just, she's a dear, dear friend. Um, okay. So yeah, so like what I was saying is that I've never shared this in the way that I'm going to share it tonight. And because, I think I I was in the hospital for 97 days about 10 years ago, like really, really supposed to die. And the doctors were like, "You're probably not going to make it." Or they were telling everybody around me that I wasn't going to make it. But I kind of was like, I hear that that's what you think, but I feel like I'm going to have a different experience. And um, and so here I am, having, and in a way, I see it as it was everything that I learned up until that point was the knowledge that I then had to implement. So the last 10 years from that hospitalization was my graduate course in like how to heal, how to understand. Like Renee introduced me as somebody who studied nourishment. Like I was doing nourishment, or sorry, nutrition, but I was like, nutrition is different from nourishment. Nutrition is what the mind tells you to eat, but nourishment is what the mind, the body, and the spirit come together to create so that you're fed on a spirit level, on a mind level, and on a physical level. Because if you're going to just feed the mind, your body will eventually say, "Fuck you." And if you feed the body, your mind will eventually do the same thing. Um, and the goal is to become whole and integrate how the mind and the body work. And one of the sort of clues, and tonight's talk is nourishment, pleasure, and penetration. And one of the ways to do it is to use pleasure. And it's not addictive pleasure. It's about, you have to, when we are first born, and if we've had good experiences about being born, and we had good parents, which many of us may have had and many of us not have had, we have experiences that prepare us either in a good way for life or in a challenging way for life. And that those patterns or those momentums are what how we orient to the world and how we orient to our parents, how we orient to what our parents give us, what we do with food, what we do with other people. And so this evening is I'm going to, do a online presentation. And then at the end of the online presentation, there's going to be interactive parts. Sorry, folks, where we're going to do these things that I'm calling resets, where you will get to experience things in a new way, in a calm, quiet, meditative way. And it's going to start with water, which is everywhere. Like we're mostly water. And then with salt. And salt is something that has a lot of minerals in it. And our bodies have a lot of minerals in it on a good day. But like because the soil that a lot of our food is grown on lacks the minerals, the food doesn't have the minerals, and then therefore when we eat the food, our bodies don't have the minerals. So a lot of this, and again, part of me calling this sort of secret information is because all of you know this. All of you could find it. But I was sort of forced to remember it and to dig to find it because a lot of the stuff that I was told didn't make sense to me. And then I started digging and I started finding that I started asking questions on like, where is this information coming from? Why is this person saying one thing and this other person is saying something else? And so it's been a process of distilling and refining and burning the false stuff away to get to something that feels truthful. And like I think, like I was saying in the kitchen to Leo and Kyrie, that like I'll follow information, but I will make sure that it works for my body because then I can trust it. Because if I'm told it's supposed to work to my mind and my body's saying no, it's just like being on a diet where you you're imposing a way of doing something on the body by your mind and you're not in resonance, you're not in alignment, you're not integrated. And so nourishment comes from integrating both, like both what the mind wants and what the body wants. And again, pleasure is it's sort of this whisper saying like you're on the right track. And again, the pleasure is not from addiction, not from like there are different kinds of pleasures. There's sexual pleasure, there's emotional pleasure, there's mental pleasure, there's aesthetic pleasure, there's social pleasure. And we all know when it's aligned with us, and most of us know when it isn't. And a lot of like the ideal experience is when I was going to say ideal is when we experience things without trauma. And the way I define trauma is something that is too big for us to experience, like something that we can't handle. But like if you got some skills, then you could probably handle it and it would not be traumatic. And there are many ways to illustrate it, but I'm going to talk about how that happens on a nourishment level for the body, connected to this notion of penetration. And penetration is sort of a bold word, very rather dramatic, which I feel like it has truth to it in that we're always constantly being penetrated, either through the eyes, through the mouth, through the nose, through the ears, through the body. And food is something that enters our mouth. I mean, penetration is, again, a dramatic word, but it allows us to receive something, allows us to surrender to something. And then through digestion, that's a really useful metaphor for taking the big things and breaking them down. Because you're not going to stick a cow in your mouth. You're not going to stick a watermelon in your mouth. You're not going to stick a thing of broccoli in your mouth. You're going to have to break it down. And that breaking down makes it accessible for your body to handle it. And so that breaking down can happen mechanically, but it also can happen chemically. And we, hold on just a second. So before I continue, to get the greatest benefit from this experience, I apply this principle from the relational we space work that I do, which is all of you is welcome. Like all of you, like the scared parts, the anxious parts, the ashamed parts, the happy parts, the ecstatic parts. And like, if you can be here in that way, and if if I say something that you're like, this doesn't make sense, please say that. Like, don't necessarily interrupt me in the moment, but like, note it and then ask me later, because I want you to leave tonight with a level of greater clarity so that you can feel empowered to make choices by trusting your body. Like tomorrow, we're going to go on a food safari where I teach people about intuition and through muscle testing. And then we're going to go to the farmer's market. And, You're going to use your intuition and muscle testing to see what you're drawn to, and then you're going to buy it, and then we're going to come back here and we're actually going to make a meal out of it. And it's all going to be guided by what suits your body, not what your brain says, but what suits your body. And I also have a pendulum. I don't know if have you heard of using pendulums? Like it's a physical way to show how your energetic system interacts with an object. And so you can do it over food, you can do it over a book, you can do it over a medicine, you can do it over an herb. And, like one of the things, one of the beliefs or truths that is being acknowledged sort of on a global level is that we are energy. We are no longer mechanical beings. We are energetic beings. And as a result, we can use energy to interpret if something is in alignment with us or if something is not in alignment with us. And so to kind of illustrate that, and this is a really fun example. I took a group of people in Asheville on a food safari, and there was a really sweet young woman who I was doing some consulting with, and she was Russian. And, like in my observation, she looked really troubled. She was really thin, but she also had these incredibly inflated lips that were surgically sort of enhanced. And like I sort of recognized this pattern of needing to do the perfect thing. So when I went with her to this farmer's market to do this food safari, she would stand in front of a booth and she would be looking at me, looking for my approval if I would agree with what it is that she was wanting. And I was like, honey, it doesn't work like that. And it took a couple of times, but, and then like she finally got that and she's like, okay, but like the tendency was to like look at me for confirmation. And I was like, no, 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 no. I want you to find the center inside of your body so that this place of trust that you can come back to consistently and feel good when it speaks to you. And like that takes time because there's so many, there's so many distractions. There's so many distractions, not to mention like the biochemical distractions and addictions that like we don't know what baseline is. And so I took her in front of a booth that everything at this booth was perfect is a strong word, but like everything was nourishing. And I had her close her eyes and I had her, feel her feet, take a couple of breaths. And then I had her with her head closed, sort of intuitively move her head and face the thing that she was drawn to. And then I said, open your eyes. And I couldn't, I almost didn't believe it myself, but like I saw some kind of energy go like from her chest to this thing. And then she immediately went to that thing and she got it. And it was like this trophy, and I was celebrating. I was like, that's it. It was some kind of purple juice, some kind of purple berry, like special, like forest berry juice that was juiced into some kind of syrup. Or no, it was cold. So it was like some kind of refreshing, fresh juice. And she looked at me sort of surprised, and I was like, that's it. If you can get to that place of clarity with all of your decisions, you're home free. You're totally home free. But that takes skill. And this muscle testing thing is one way of moving in that direction. Um, so to that was sort of the introduction. And so I want to ask you both or all of you to close your eyes, put your feet on the floor, and just feel your bodies for a minute. And notice what your body the sensation in your body. Is it relaxed? Is it tense? What is the emotional tone? Is it happy? Is it calm? Is it anxious? Is it angry? Is it scared? Is it at peace? And then take another breath and then let it out. And then this breath, take it in, but feel it coming from the center of the earth. And feel the safety, the support, the stability of the earth going in through your feet. And then let it back out. And now reorient yourself and take another breath and imagine it coming from the sun, like you're pulling it down from the sun into your body. And then let it out. So I invite you to consider this as a transmission. And one way to experience it is with your eyes closed. Don't try to follow it all. Just allow it to wash over you and know that I will be available for questions afterwards. Nourishment is for your body, your sacred temple, and it is ultimately a mystical experience, being penetrated by the holy, the whole, by nourishment. Eating can be a spiritual experience when something outside of us enters us, which is where pleasure and penetration can merge. Pleasure is deep, profound medicine. Without true pleasure, we can slip into addiction and distortion, because when we are designed to have it be present in our lives, with ourselves, with our world, with each other, and with our food. Imagine enjoying the world and life in that way, from a place of reverence and sacredness. Penetration is a bold way of saying allowing, receiving, surrendering, which happens with ease when pleasure is part of the equation. When pleasure is part of the equation, there's no stress, just calm, soothing pleasure, which the nervous system enjoys and receives. The metaphor of the sexual generative act, when it works and is aligned on all levels, can be ecstatic. And I offer that when nourishment is aligned on all levels, it can be similarly ecstatic, and this can happen every time you put something in your mouth. See it and hear it in a spiritual context, not a sexual one, which is really easy for our life dishonoring culture to hear the word penetration. I want you to see the secrets that you just forgot and help you remember them. And the reason why I've been able to discover them is because of the amount of pain, suffering, and trauma that I've gone through. So take another breath. Breathing in whatever way feels good. Either through your hands, through your feet, through your head. And I want to give some context and honor the legacy of this thing called the wise woman tradition, which has come through this woman, Susan Weed, and Weston Price, and the work of Sally Fallon, who wrote this amazing book called Nourishing Traditions, and the synthesizing work of this man, Nicholas Gonzalez, who have all played an incredible role in teaching me and inspiring me and guiding me to this place where I've started calling the wise woman tradition the paradigm of nourishment, which is over 5,000 years old. And it's a way of engaging with the body from a place that there is nothing to fix. You simply nourish, and healing and wholeness can eventually be restored. So I'm inviting you to listen to me, because after these 97 days in the hospital, I've had to incorporate and learn and trust and practice all these things that I learned. And I feel like I really wanted to believe in the joy of life and the goodness that is here for us. And a lot of it for me is by being connected to other people and then sharing what I know through these connections with food, because food is such an incredible way of sharing pleasure, because it's something that you get to share, but it's also something that helps your body heal, cleanse, and rebuild. And, like in this exploration, being told like I was going to die, like I'm often told like what you believe isn't going to work. And my most latest thing is that I experienced some teeth pain. And in the past, I've experienced excruciating teeth pain for 4 times. And I was able to resolve the pain in like cut the pain in half in 12 hours. And then in 24 hours, the pain was completely gone. And I did it with food. I did it with nourishment and like intensive focused nourishment. Um, and most recently, I was told that I had to have 5 teeth pulled. And, the world view that these dentists in Western world have is just that. They can't believe that teeth can heal. But I did it 4 times. And that in and of itself was something that people were like, you're crazy. But after doing it, like it took me 4 times to really believe it. And this last episode where I was told that I needed to get this tooth pulled, like that was another level. I was like, all right, this is going to take some work. But I've been doing the rehabilitation and using, like the weird things that I found, through synchronicity, through research. And I no longer have sensation, and it was up in my upper gum, and I felt sensations going from my upper gum into my brain. And I was like, I need to pay attention to this. And 2 years ago, this woman that I do muscle testing scans with, she's like, you may want to get your teeth checked out. But I didn't have the money at the time. And so I just delayed it. And I was like, it's not too bad. It's not too bad. But then, like 2 months ago, like I was like, I need to pay attention. So it's been about 2 months and I feel like I'm resolving this, and I'm doing all these things. And again, somebody told me that this is not possible. And I humbly say, perhaps it is. So, like when you look in the world of the processed food culture that we live, there isn't much food out there. And people get discouraged on how impossible it is to eat well. And I want to affirm, and tell you that it is not that hard. It takes some effort to transition and change, but it is totally possible. And the cost of not doing it is something that we really can't afford. Like giving our health to someone else, like a doctor or an insurance company or a dentist, like it's totally doable and many people do it. But I've slowly taken my power back by learning and researching and doing things that actually have rebuilt my body from being like 90 pounds 10 years ago to being like 170 now and feeling pretty good. So, yeah, I'm going to say these 3 words again: nourishment, pleasure, and ask you to take a deep breath and just think of pleasure. Think of pleasure and where it is in your life. Think of pleasure and where you deny yourself pleasure. Just notice what comes up. And I'm going to say the other P word: penetration. And take a deep breath when you hear me say the word penetration. And what do you feel when you hear that word? What do you see? What do you imagine? What experiences are called up? And just keep breathing and allowing yourself to see that penetration is incredibly innocent. It's been wounded as a word in our culture, partly because we don't really honor sexuality or life, and a lot of the people here have experienced that. So we know what not honoring our life, our aliveness feels like. And, I'm sure we've had lots of layers of woundedness, but that all can loosen and can heal, in part through pleasure and also through nourishment. The nourishment of food, the nourishment of connection, the nourishment of social nourishment as well. So, recognizing that we're not alone is a really, really invaluable thing. And that's where the whole like all of you is welcome comes in, where you feel like you reject a part of yourself and you don't bring it into the circle. When you don't bring it into the circle, you're the one not bringing it in. And so, how can you bring these parts of yourself in to allow them to nourish you? Because those things have gifts for us. Because we separated them, it's on us to figure out how to bring them back. So, again, there's physical nourishment, mental nourishment, spiritual nourishment, emotional nourishment. And we're going to focus on physical nourishment because each of these subjects could be a weekend workshop or a week-long workshop. And, like when I work with people, I usually go into their home, and that way we get to have uninterrupted time for like a week or 2 weeks where we get to explore this, because ultimately this is a meditation on yourself, a meditation on your body, a meditation on how you love yourself, how you take care of yourself. And so I think I started talking about digestion. Like, digestion is the act of taking a big thing and making it small so that it actually fits where it needs to go. And gluten, I'm sure you all know about gluten and what it does and how it has made things challenging for people, because it is something big that wants to fit into something small. And the people who are here, sorry that the people that are not, they're going to get a chance to taste something that was made from grain, but it was made in the proper way that broke this gluten down into something that the body not only can eat, but it actually feels pleasurable when you receive it. But again, you'll get a chance to judge that for yourself. So again, digestion can happen chemically and it can happen physically. And digestion starts in the mouth by us chewing something, which breaks down something that's big into something small. I imagine you've all heard you have to chew your food and chew your juice to make what you're basically doing is you're working with your body to give you the most nutrition that's available in the food. And like there are these crazy stories of people in concentration camps. They would get a crust or a slice of bread, and there's certain people would just gobble it up. And then there were other people, and like eventually that they were still hungry because they didn't get everything out of the food. But then there were these wise old people who would take this piece of bread and they would eat it all day long. And by breaking this thing down so slowly, their bodies got all the nutrition out of it. And so while other people were starving and breaking down and getting thinner and thinner, these people, they were definitely getting thin, but it wasn't as extreme as the people who were just binging on this food. So like there's like that's a secret, like that's a way of understanding that there's more nutrition in the food than we give ourselves the opportunity to do or to receive. Um, and so there's this notion of properly preparing food, which basically breaks it down from being big into being something small so that it goes into your mouth, and then from your mouth, it goes into your digestive tract, and then it goes into your stomach, and it gets chemically broken down with hydrochloric acid as well as different enzymes. And then it gets smaller and smaller. And then eventually it gets so small that it can start traveling into your tissues, into your organs, and ultimately into your cells. And so that's one level of penetration. It's when nutrients penetrate your cells. But, the dance is quite elaborate. Like you need all these different enzymes um, for these enzymes to be present. Does everybody know what an enzyme is? Enzyme. Yeah, it's a catalyst. It's some kind of thing that like locks into something and it unlocks it so that something else can happen, so something can be broken down. And so once these things are broken down into like liquid, then they start traveling through the blood and they start getting delivered to the different destinations in the body. And so I'm just looking at the time. Um, like I want to give you a couple of takeaways, which is understanding that gluten isn't really the problem. It's that it's not properly prepared for our bodies to be able to handle it. Like I can give you some of these to take home with you for Sunday when you break your fast. But I made cookies out of sprouted spelt flour, which has the big gluten, but because it was sprouted, the gluten was broken down by the natural process of sprouting to make it digestible. So people who are sensitive to gluten, they can often eat this food and not have negative effects. And those negative effects are when something that's big doesn't fit into something that's small. And like this is a oversimplification, but an allergy is something where it's something similar where something big is trying to enter your body, but it's too big for where it's supposed to go. And so the body assumes it's being assaulted, it's being violated, it's being attacked. And then your body has this immune response to try to get this thing to go out. And usually you snot, you mucus, you you can swell, and that's a way of your body protecting you from this thing going deeper into your system. And then there's this other principle, like there's a lot of confusing information about fats and oils. Our cells, the cell membrane, the balloon that our cells are in, it's made of fat. And our bodies usually can't make that fat, so we have to consume it. But if we're eating fats that our bodies can't work with, like I'm sure you've heard of omega-3 fats and omega-6 fats. Omega-3 fats are fats that our bodies can handle. Omega-6 fats cause inflammation in the body. And a lot of the foods that are processed heavily rely on omega-6 fats. So we're putting these inflammatory oils in our bodies, and then our bodies are trying to do the best they can with these inflammatory oils, and they make cells out of these inflammatory oils, and these cells can't function the way they're supposed to function. Like You can take a ball, a beach ball, and if you blow it up, you can bounce it and it'll behave in a predictable way. But when the ball starts losing air or losing integrity, you can throw it and it's not going to start bouncing in the predictable way. So when you start introducing omega-6 oils into the membrane of these cells, your cells don't behave in a predictable way, partly because they're inflamed, partly because the joints between all the molecules of the fats, they're loose, and so things go in and out without clear boundaries. And so basically bad fats rust the body just like bad sugar. And I wouldn't say all sugar is bad, but sugar is something that has been overused in our culture. And I think partly it's because we know that we're supposed to experience sweetness, but it's the sweetness of connection. It's the sweetness of embrace. It's the sweetness of beauty. But because many people are not getting that, we turn to a physical form of sweetness that is sugar. And our bodies were not designed to consume that level of sugar. Like, I don't know what the statistic is, but like I want to say it's like 48 pounds of sugar people consume in the modern diet, and that is way too much. And so no wonder there's this epidemic of diabetes because our bodies are not designed to metabolize that much sugar. And so the body, like it's doing it best it can, but eventually the functions of the pancreas and the insulin, it stops to function. And so we have to supplement. Um, but basically, so bad fats rust the body and sugar also rusts the body. So the question is, how can we educate ourselves to consume good fats? And the biochemistry of fat is really quite beautiful and quite complex. But a simple way is to reduce eating seed oils, which are the oils that things are often fried in, like canola oil, um, corn oil, safflower oil, soy oil. And those oils, they're grown, or those seeds that those oils are pressed from are grown in ways on unhealthy soil that doesn't have the nutrients to make a robust plant. And if you don't have a robust plant, you have to support the plant by putting on all kinds of chemicals and pesticides. And all of that gets woven into the fat and the oil of the plant so that when they squeeze it, you get not only the oil, but you get the residues of these chemicals. And none of that stuff gets filtered out, which is another reason why it's really, really important to buy and consume the cleanest food, because you can either filter the things outside of you or have your body filter that stuff inside of you. And, in the resilience of how our bodies work, our bodies will cleanse themselves. But if they're overloaded, they're going to keep cleansing, and eventually they're going to be overwhelmed, and they're going to start storing these things. And this is not always the case, but like when things grow in the body that are not supposed to be there, they're often the body trying to handle an overwhelm of toxins that it can't handle, which is why when people are overweight, it's really important to slowly detox, because your body has to metabolize the toxins that the body is protecting you from by enveloping the toxins in fat. So like the beauty of how this organism works is amazing. Like, and to believe that the body wants to die, that feels heretical and it feels absolutely incorrect. Because, I have my own experience of coming back from being almost dead. And then I see plenty of people when they start helping the body heal with nourishment, exercise, um, cleansing, the body comes back. It certainly comes back. It takes some time. And like with this latest experiment with my teeth, like it's taken more time, but like I'm coming back. And like I'm really quietly being like I figured something out. It's another piece of the puzzle. And like it didn't happen overnight. It's taken 2 months, but out of really focused. What's that? Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'm curious, like after everything that I've said, like what what does nourishment, like, do you understand what nourishment is? Do you have experiences of nourishment? Do you have, and we can open it up to the people in the Zoom world if they want. Can you unmute yourselves? They can. So if anybody has something to share.
Hello there. I don't know if I have a voice or not. You just answered so many questions. Thank you so much. I've been getting this really big belly and I've been just hungry all the time and I eat really fast. It's like, oh, just slow down. And then maybe I won't be as hungry because I'll be
Right,
getting nutrition that I feel like I'm not getting by eating really good organic food.
right. That's great.
Thank you.
You're welcome. It's great when people like hear something and they see it in their life and they can connect it and then like use it. So thank you, Iva.
Thank
You're welcome. Right. Mm. All right. Right. Okay.
It as much as possible to make sure that our body gets into it.
So Leo, who is here in person, he was commenting on how he often eats very fast because and he eats at work, which makes it difficult to eat slowly. And then what was the other thing? Maybe the supermarket. Yeah. So he also said that when he goes to the store, to the supermarket, he walks around and he sees things that he's drawn to, and he also sees things that he's not drawn to. And listening to that and using that as a way of navigating what he puts into his body. Anybody else? Yeah, you can totally.
Okay, yeah, so with the shopping thing, I would always like buy food based off the price versus like buying stuff that's actually good for me. So ever since I've been like on a weight loss journey, eating better stuff, I actually buy stuff that's nutritional versus like, oh, this is like $1, $2, $3 versus this is healthy, this has less sugar, less carbs. So by doing so, by making that change, of course, this allowed me to lose weight, but then it's also making me feel more energetic.
Mm.
Um, and just feeling cleaner and healthier. So just making a small change can make a big difference. So.
Thank you. Anybody else want to say something or?
Where's the microphone?
Oh, it's on the other side. You're on.
The other side. So I had the absolute pleasure of spending a couple of hours with you on Wednesday, and you said something then, and you said it again tonight about the if your body can't process something and can't get rid of it, it's going to encapsulate it, and it's going to put it somewhere, and that's what becomes cancer tumors. And I've thought about that as I was eating macaroni and cheese tonight. Very good macaroni and cheese, by the way, very good cheese. But I'm thinking, you know, where is that bit of Gruyere cheese gonna go? So that visualization has become kind of top of mind for me as I'm eating whatever.
Enjoying what you're eating, right?
Yeah.
I mean, another thing that is a result of the body being so resilient, like if you do that, you just have to go balance it out. And I also have all these sort of tips, techniques that I do because I eat macaroni and cheese too. I binge on cookies. I mean, and it's also addictive. You know, like gluten is addictive. Dairy is addictive, or it has addictive properties. You know, like casein, like we have morphine-like receptors in our brain that get fed when we eat cheese. And so, like when you start a pint of ice cream or you start a quart of yogurt, like next thing I know, like it's gone. And that's because the chemicals in the dairy stimulate the response. And so whenever I eat dairy, I make sure that it's really, really good quality dairy so that there's no unnecessary ingredients like toxins or pesticides so that my body can process it. And I often end up fasting after I do something like that to give my body a chance to like let it out instead of store it away. And, you know, like listening to my body, like my body has become my friend. And it took a while, but like I listen to it as best as I can. And, you know, we're kind of getting along, except for around sleep, but we're doing pretty well.
So I'm Carl, basically. In 2019, basically before COVID, I had lost 80 pounds. Basically doing what I restarted doing now, of fasting and basically eliminating sugar and carbs. So my diet just consisted of healthy fats and protein. Protein either in the form of meat or fats in matter of oil. I really drank a lot of olive oil. So I would drink a cup of olive oil every morning. And every Friday I would eat 50 wings. That was like my break for, you know, but the thing is I was in a ketosis state. So when you eat a lot of carbs, when you eat a lot of protein or meat in that fashion, you're always hungry, right? I think carbs really fill you up and just captures a lot of space in your body and makes you feel sluggish. And ever since I started doing that, I don't feel sleepy at work, you know, around that 2 p.m. or 1 p.m. after work, during work. And it's hard to get to that point where your body, you know, transitions from not using sugar as a source of energy,
right?
Where it has to shift, you know, now it has to use your body fat or use other types of way for you to survive or live. and I believe from my experience that my body performs better. But I slacked during COVID. I was like, I'm gonna die. I haven't had pizza in 2 years. I didn't have burger. I didn't have this, so I let myself go. But I'm basically picking myself back up right now and going back in that journey of being back to 2019, I guess,
Right.
before COVID.
And it seems like it's serving you.
Yeah.
Like
So I
you're getting
basically
feedback.
lost 20 pounds in the past 2 weeks. 2 months, I mean.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really great.
So I basically fast and fast for 3 days every week, and the rest of the week I basically don't eat sugar. I watch what I eat.
It's great.
Yeah. Thank
How old
you.
are you?
32.
All right. Your skin looks great. I'm asking because like when we eat sugar, the rust that happens shows up as wrinkles.
Yeah.
And like your face looks kind of like it has baby skin on it.
Yeah.
And then we start regenerating.
Yeah, correct.
We
That's
totally
true.
start regenerating.
That's true.
And if we can eliminate those things that inflame our bodies and degenerate our bodies and add things that regenerate our bodies, like vegetables and juices, and not fruit juices, but like vegetable juices, our bodies will come back.
Yeah, I
They
still
definitely will come back.
have vegetables, for example, but not bread. It's like
Right.
I still have like your regular kale, your spinach, your broccolis, and all those type of stuff, asparagus, but organic stuff.
Right.
Yeah. So
You see a difference?
I see a difference. Like even when I go eat out, like I make sure,
Mhm.
like, what are you doing? What is it cooked with? I ask.
Right.
It might sound annoying, but it's my body at the end of the day, and I have to make sure what I put in it.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's great. It's great to hear the level of responsibility and engagement that you're doing, and you're seeing the results.
Yeah.
And it's like once you start seeing the results, you start getting excited because like you have control. It's not like we're powerless.
Yeah. It's also a matter of accountability, and the way I do accountability is I get on a scale every morning. I see if it tips up or down.
Right.
And I analyze what did I do wrong, or the previous day, or
Right.
2 days before, and I analyze. Okay, this is not something I should be doing, or I overate, or I did something wrong, and so I log everything in I eat.
Right.
I use this app called LifeSum, so I
Mhm.
log everything in, and I analyze that, and I'm like, okay, so yesterday I ate bad, or I ate too much, or
Right.
even if I still ate good, but I probably ate too much, and it helps you calibrate how your body works, so you kind of understand
Right.
how food really affects you, and you actually feel it the next day or whatever,
Right.
and it helps you function better, I think, basically.
Yeah, it's great to hear you doing the work of learning about yourself.
Yeah.
You're knowing yourself.
Yeah.
And when you know yourself, you can make great choices,
Correct.
or definitely better choices than people who don't know themselves.
Yeah.
They wake up after eating a bag of cheese puffs and they feel awful.
Mhm.
But if they had the self-awareness to be like, oh, why am I feeling awful? And making the connection, they might make another choice. But it's really complicated because cheese puffs, and I don't want to bad name or badmouth cheese puffs because I love them, or I used to love them. But the conventionally produced cheese puffs, not only do they have corn, but the corn is fried GMO corn, and it has color in it. It's made with really, really bad oils that rust the body. So like all of these things, and they also interfere with how your brain works. And so you can't even think clearly about what you're doing because you're putting things in your body that deliberately keep you from thinking clearly. So cool. Thank you. I noticed that it's almost 8:30 and there's one interactive thing. How are people online doing? You're good? Okay. Because after this interactive part, we're going to say goodbye. And then the people here are going to be doing some tasting. So I didn't say this in the beginning, but everybody get a pillow. And I think they're, and we're going to go for creating a reset around your experience of nourishment. I'm good, thanks. So I'm going to ask you to close your eyes and imagine that that pillow is a baby. And hold that baby with all the care, all the love, all the tenderness, all the gentleness that you can muster. You could even rock the pillow or even rock yourself as you're holding it. But make sure that the baby and you are both in some kind of pleasure, in some kind of enjoyment. And notice how that feels, having this precious little life in your hands. Do you feel close to it? Do you feel like you want to push it away? Are you enjoying it? Are you feeling the life in this little baby? And just allow yourself to breathe and feel that you're breathing for both of you. You're nourishing your body and the baby's body with your breath. And by doing that, you're both experiencing the pleasure of connection. And then imagine that that baby was you when you were a little baby, that you are holding yourself and extending all this incredible love that you may or may not have gotten, but you're reprogramming your experience of loving yourself and embracing yourself completely. And notice how that feels. Notice if you can breathe and feel the breath supporting your body and supporting your baby, or supporting you, supporting both of you. And imagine that you are the baby's father and you are the baby's mother. And you are offering you the experience of nourishment, of being held, of being seen, of being nurtured. Even imagine yourself looking into the baby's eyes in your imagination and smiling at them with a level of radiance and love, which you may or may not have gotten, but now you can give it to yourself. You know, we have all these different experiences in our life, but we can always choose another one. And then as the mother, imagine that you are feeding the baby. You are feeding yourself, and the baby is connected and attached to your breast. And the baby is enjoying the nourishment that your body is giving you. The warmth, the sweetness, the eye contact. These are all forms of nourishment. an affirmation. And allow yourself as the baby to feel this incredible nourishment, this incredible embrace, this incredible support. And allow every single cell in your body, from the cells in your lips to the cells in your mouth and your tongue and your throat, feeling the warmth and the power and the nourishment go into your body, down your esophagus, into your belly. And this milk is completely prepared for you. It is the perfect combination of sweetness, of protein, amino acids, of fatty acids that support your microbiome to help digestion happen. And notice what it feels like to have this experience of being deeply nourished by yourself. And with the nourishment, as it enters you and your cells give you strength, power, and safety that is now always available to you and from you. And in a way, you've completed the circuit and now have an experience of what nourishment can be like, what it can feel like. And breathe that in. And notice how it feels. Notice what has woken up from this experience. What do you want more of? More eye contact, a warmer embrace, more milk. And as you, the giver, and you, the receiver, you can give that to yourself. And feel the safety of that nourishment. Feel the safety of this baseline of nourishment. And know that in this moment, you are safe, you are complete, you are loved, you are completely, completely loved. In a way that you can do now, that may not have been available to you, but now it is. And so imagine this level of communion, this level of nourishment, this level of care, this level of love that can be available to you each time you eat, each time you think about eating, each time you interact with someone, each time you see something beautiful, each time you create something beautiful that can nourish you and the people around you. And imagine that this is the world that you can live in all the time. A world where there's nothing to fix. The only thing that you need to do is to keep nourishing yourself. And from that nourishment, the strength the confidence, the clarity, the freedom will come for you to heal, for you to become whatever it is that you want. If you feel connected to the source of nourishment that you can give yourself. And remember, you can always come back to this moment. By grabbing a pillow and breathing and remembering this experience. So in the last few minutes or seconds, just notice what's alive for you. Notice if you can receive this. Notice if you can believe it. And just let it land, let it enter you, let it penetrate you, and feel the pleasure of being with yourself, supporting yourself, nurturing and nourishing yourself. So as much fun as it would be to just stay here, know that you can always come back. You can always come back. This is available to you. You did it. You know what it feels like. You can return here anytime. When you wake up, when you go to sleep, when you're at work, when you're driving. You almost don't even need a pillow. Just feel the memory and the comfort of that memory. And again, imagine that every single time you eat, you nourish yourself. You can feel this level of completeness, this level of peace, this level of comfort, this level of safety, this level of love for yourself. So slowly take your time. Maybe wiggle your toes, wiggle your fingers. And you're welcome to keep your eyes closed, but come back to Renee's living room or your rooms in Cyberland. Let out a big yawn if you need to. And remind yourself that nourishment is possible and it's available. So with that, we're ending the online portion of this evening. And then as a way of ending, I'm open to questions if anybody has any. And if you don't, or if you don't have them right now, you're welcome to reach out to me and we can talk later so that you can stay in this state, because that might be the answer to all the questions. Bye, Iva. Thank you for coming.